Hey friends, it's Andy Storch. I know it's been a while since I have shared any updates or content on this show, and that's because I've been focused on some other things. And I know there's already a lot of really great content on here on how to own your career and prepare for the future. But I'm also thinking about plans for how I can transition and get this thing going again. But either way, I wanted to pop in to share some thoughts because I just hit a big milestone. I just passed 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I'm really proud of that because it didn't come from any super viral posts that were seen by millions of people. I wasn't really creating any over the top, highly choreographed content. I haven't really invested in using any expensive marketing agencies or anything like that. Instead, it's just come from consistently showing up day after day, week after week, and creating content on LinkedIn and connecting with people that I want in my network over the last, I'm going to say, about 7 years. I mean, I've been using LinkedIn since it started. I want to say 2005, I'm not sure, but really got focused and intentional about creating content and especially connecting with people who I want in my network going back to probably 2018, and just consistently showing up since then, connecting with people, like I said, day after day, week after week, sharing content almost daily on LinkedIn. And I talked in my book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, about the power of using and leveraging LinkedIn for your own network and career growth. And I speak in organizations about building your personal brand and run workshops and talk about how to leverage LinkedIn. And I've been practicing what I preach. I've been doing what I say I do, which is, I won't go into the whole LinkedIn workshop today, but if you're curious about it, if you're thinking about ramping up your LinkedIn and using it more, the three main things to think about are, number one, getting your profile in order. So making sure that you have a professional headshot or a good looking profile photo, preferably, I think, where it's mostly your face and you're smiling. But I've seen all kinds of different ways to approach it, so I don't think there's any hard and fast rules. But you want to look friendly, approachable, professional somewhat, depending on what you're going for. And then look at the rest of your profile, update your headline to talk about the things that you want to be known for. So LinkedIn defaults to making your headline job title at company, but you can absolutely go in and change that. Even if you're not a content creator like me, if you're a finance manager, you could still say passionate about making numbers work for organizations to improve profitability and efficiency or something like that, right? You make it sound a little more exciting than just financial analyst at XYZ company. And then you can add in some personal flair, like I add in that I'm a cancer survivor, a cyclist, and an ally. You can add in whatever else you want. But that headline, and then go in and update, obviously, your about paragraph section and your experience and your education to make sure those are up to date and really focused on accomplishments to show people what you are capable of. So that's number one. Number two is connecting with people. So I always recommend, if you haven't been using LinkedIn that much, to go in and just start by connecting with everybody that you've worked with in the past, that you went to school with, that you've met at conferences. Add them to your network. There really is no downside on LinkedIn to adding people to your network. The only potential downside is when you add some new people that you don't know, and then they might send you silly stuff or pitch you on their services that might not be relevant to you. But that's pretty rare. It doesn't happen a lot, as much as people complain about. But there's not much downside in adding other people, people you already know, to your network. Whereas, for example, on Facebook, I think the downside is you add a friend and you don't know them that well, and then you start seeing their highly controversial political content that you don't agree with. That could be stressful or triggering, right? You may need to unfriend them again or something. I've been through that. But with LinkedIn, you're probably not going to see those things, right? So there's not much downside in adding people. You want to continue to grow that network, because as you add more people to your network, that exposes you to more people and more opportunities on LinkedIn, because you add more first connections, which gets you exposed to people in those people's networks. So more second connections and more third connections. And you start to see some of those posts, which could include job opportunities, project opportunities, and just learning about things that are going on in the working world. So start by connecting with people that you've already worked with, that you've already gone to school with, that you've met, that you know, and then start to think about who are the types of people that you want to connect with in the future. And so that could be, for example, again, let's say you're a financial analyst. You want to connect with other financial analysts in the tech industry because you want to know what they're working on and start to build up your network in that space in case you need to find another job later on, or you just want to learn from others. And so you do a search for financial analysts in software and tech and start sending out connection requests. Or you want to become a manager or a director in finance one day. So you start reaching out to managers and directors, especially if they have something in common with you, maybe a connection, or they went to the same university, or they're in the same city. And you could say something like, hey, I'm a financial analyst at XYZ company in Orlando, and I saw that you are a director. I aspire to be a director of finance one day. I'm just curious if you'd mind if we connect, and maybe I can get to grab a few minutes of your time to ask you some questions about your career. Most people, I feel like, don't mind that, as long as you're not asking them for anything that really puts them out or is uncomfortable for them, like a job or anything else, right? You're just asking for some advice. I recently interviewed a guy named Mark Reed, who wrote a book called The Coffee Code, and he's been a lecture agent to the stars, connecting stars with big time speaking gigs and things like that. Now he speaks on university campuses about this topic, the Coffee Code. And it's really just about reaching out, having conversations, being willing to ask for advice, and then following up and following through and doing the things that people recommend, and then keeping in touch with those people. And you never know where opportunities might come from in the future. He's really big on that. I'm publishing that interview on the other podcast, the Talent Development Hot Seat, but I might publish it here as well, since it is mostly about networking and finding opportunities. And then, so that's connecting with people, building up your network, and do it intentionally. It doesn't have to be fast. And then the third piece is content or thought leadership. Are you sharing content? Are you creating thought leadership? Are you building your personal brand that way? And content could come in the form of short form posts, longer articles, videos. There's just all kinds of things, PDFs you can be sharing on LinkedIn, and it can be original content, right? Original thoughts. You can also be reposting or sharing other people's posts. One of my favorite things to do if you're just getting started with sharing content is to share the things that you're reading and learning. So just read this book called Own Your Career, Own Your Life. Here are 3 things I learned from it. It was really fantastic. Just read this article in Forbes or Fortune, and here are 3 things that I took away. Just listen to this podcast about talent development from Andy Storch, and here are 3 things that I learned. And what you're doing when you do that, I'm really big on this because it shares value with your network because you're sharing a valuable piece of content. You're also summarizing it for them, so you're making it easy for them, and then they can always decide if they want to watch, read, or listen more. And number 3, you are showing that you are someone who is interested in learning and growing, and that you're spending time on those things. And I think that goes a long way to build your brand and show as someone who is growth minded, who is into learning. And if I'm thinking about hiring someone in my company, everybody's different, but I generally is going to want somebody who's growth minded, growth mindset, interested in learning, because I think the world is changing so much and so fast. We have to be learning all the time. We cannot stop. And I kind of work on my own. I have a couple virtual assistants, but if I were building a bigger company and hiring people, I would want somebody who says, hey, I'm going to spend at least 5 to 10 hours a week on learning because I want to know what's going on in the world and stay up on the latest things, which is something I do as well. I listen to podcasts every day. I read books every day. I'm on LinkedIn every day, not only sharing content, but scrolling through my feed and seeing what people are talking about and learning from them. And I have like a couple of WhatsApp groups with friends who are entrepreneurs, and we share resources and things that we're using, tools, and I find that really helpful as well. So it shows that you're learning. And then you can start to share other things. Just finish this project. Anytime you get together with people in a professional capacity, you can also be sharing some personal things to give people a glimpse of your personal life and allow that to build your brand. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, I share things that I've been learning. I share content from my book. I share thoughts and insights on career development and owning your career. I share thoughts and insights on talent development. I promote my podcast on there, recent interviews and episodes, and I share personal stuff like my cycling journeys, my family, my move to Spain, all kinds of stuff. It's on there, and it gives people a personal glimpse, as well as mindset stuff and how I think about things and overcome challenges. So there's really no limit on what you can share on LinkedIn. Obviously, you want to keep it somewhat professional. When I say professional, it doesn't mean, it has to be about business. You can't use colloquial phrases or anything like that. Just steer clear of, obviously, like controversial subjects, politics, sex, things like that. But you can talk about anything work related and even share glimpses of your personal life as well. I follow some really great people who do that very well, and they've built really huge followings as a result. And I learn from them on a regular basis, going back to learning on a regular basis. And then finally, I'll say LinkedIn at the end of the day is really a tool. I think it's a fantastic tool, but it's a tool that allows us to build and maintain and keep up with the network. It's a tool that allows us to build a personal brand. And there are greater ways to do that beyond the LinkedIn platform. So your network comes from meeting people, talking to people. So if I connect with someone new on LinkedIn, a lot of times I want to get to know them. So I want to get them onto Zoom so that we can have a 30-minute conversation and really get to know each other. And I know what they're working on, see if they're a potential client or partner, collaborator or friend, etc. And I'm always meeting up with people in real life as well to make new friends and strengthen friendships. And then on the personal brand front, in addition to online, there's the real life way that you build your personal brand, which is how you interact with people, how you work with people, how you support other people, how you make them feel. Do people enjoy working with you? Do they want to work with you again? Are you someone who's very supportive and hardworking and helpful to people you work with, or are you standoffish and hard to work with? And there's a whole chapter in my book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, about building your personal brand. I'm working on another book about building your personal brand. The key question that I always ask people is like, what do you want to be known for? Would you want to be known as someone who's very thoughtful, as helpful, as high integrity, as an expert in a certain area like AI or career development or automotive industry, whatever it is? Like, what do you want to be known for? You could write down 3, 4, 5